It's always quiet right before something goes wrong. You know, that moment when a house feels just a bit too still, when even, say, the refrigerator hum seems loud, and then suddenly something breaks the rhythm. A crack, a thud, a sound that doesn't belong. These days we reach for our phones, apps and cameras that promise safety through technology. But, well, 80 years ago, people had none of that. Back during World War II, entire cities lived under blackout orders, rationing, invasion fears, and, honestly, nightly uncertainty. Doors were thin, windows were fragile. Police response was slow or sometimes non-existent during air raids, and yet ordinary families learned how to harden their homes so effectively that intruders, looters, and even trained soldiers avoided certain houses altogether. What they developed wasn't paranoia. It was layered defense rooted in physics, psychology, and yes, human behavior. The remarkable part is this. Almost none of these methods are obsolete. They work today for the same reasons they worked then. This isn't nostalgia. It's hard-earned knowledge, tested under pressure, and still relevant for anyone who understands that security is about preparation, not panic. Why did home defense during World War II become, well, a civilian science? By 1940, governments understood that war would not stay on battlefields. Civilians became targets, not by accident, but by strategy. Blackouts turned neighbourhoods into, blind zones. Police and fire brigades were stretched thin. Looting followed bombings, evacuations, and all that confusion. Families simply could not rely on rescue. They had to slow intruders, signal danger, and protect themselves long enough for help to arrive, or for threats to move on. What emerged was a civilian defence culture built on delay, noise, and deterrence rather than confrontation. Reinforcing doors mattered more than locks ever did. Wartime reports consistently showed that doors failed at the frame, not the lock. British households responded by anchoring door frames directly into wall studs using long, thick screws and hidden reinforcement boards. This, transformed a weak strike plate area into part of the house's structure. Today, the same method applies. A modern deadbolt means little if the frame splinters under force. Reinforcing the jamb with structural screws and an internal backing board dramatically increases resistance, turning a fast kick-in into a noisy, time-consuming failure that most intruders abandon. Windows were treated as sound and information leaks. Glass was never trusted. During the Blitz, households layered windows with paper, cardboard and fabric to prevent shattering and dampen sound. This reduced both injury and detection risk. Modern equivalents are simple and legal. Shipping tape in a crisscross pattern, backed by removable polycarbonate sheets or even temporary panels, forces an intruder to work longer and, louder. Crime studies repeatedly show that time and noise are the two strongest deterrents. WWII households understood this intuitively. Noise was weaponized using the cheapest materials available. Gravel paths were deliberately laid near windows and entrances because, footsteps just can't be silenced on loose stone. This technique, honestly, remains brutally effective even now. A narrow strip of gravel under vulnerable windows or along fence lines announces movement instantly. Inside homes, improvised noise traps using metal, glass or wooden pieces were strung across dark hallways. These days, simple clatter alarms using recycled materials work on the same principle. Sudden sound breaks stealth and triggers hesitation, which is, more often than not, enough to stop a crime in progress. Landscaping became a physical barrier, not just decoration. Metal fencing and barbed wire were scarce during the war, so civilians turned to thorn plants like hawthorn and blackthorn. These created slow, painful choke points that forced intruders into visible areas. Modern thorny hedges serve the same function while remaining legal and visually acceptable. Planted just inside property lines, they create natural funnels and remove easy access routes. The goal isn't injury, but hesitation and exposure. Sandbags turned living rooms into hardened spaces. Sandbags were, quite common in homes near strategic targets. Filled with soil, they absorbed shrapnel, stopped debris, and even halted small arms fire. Today, contractor bags filled with soil or sand can be discreetly placed along exterior walls or beneath windows, hidden behind furniture. Beyond security, they double as storm protection. This is layered defense that costs little and requires no permanent modification. Misdirection protected what mattered most. False cupboards and decoy storage were a wartime staple. Looters took what they saw first and left quickly. Families hid real supplies elsewhere. The same psychology applies today. Visible, low-value items distract from hidden valuables. Intruders want speed, not thoroughness. Giving them something to grab often ends the encounter sooner. Community Watch actually replaced technology long before cameras even existed. Firewatch networks during the Second World War were, hyper-local and incredibly effective. Neighbours would keep an eye on rooftops, share alerts, and respond together as a team. These days, the modern equivalents are really just simple group chats and a bit of shared awareness. Certainly not fancy apps or paid subscriptions. Human observation, honestly, remains more adaptive than any device, especially when folks know what belongs and what doesn't. Blackout discipline, you see, controlled what outsiders could learn. Blackouts weren't just about hiding cities from bombers. They also hid information from people right there on the ground. Light, after all, reveals occupancy, routines, and valuables. Today, things like softer exterior lighting, controlled interior visibility, and blackout curtains all help deny casing opportunities. Security, in the end, really does begin with information denial. So, why do these defences still work? Well, none of these methods rely on fear. Instead, they depend on physics, effort, and, of course, human psychology. Intruders, more often than not, avoid difficulty, noise, uncertainty, and exposure. Civilians during the war didn't need technology to figure this out. They built layered systems that bought time and changed behaviour. And honestly, those principles haven't changed one bit. History doesn't survive simply by being remembered. It survives by being used. If this knowledge mattered back then, well, it matters now. So do subscribe to The Past They Hid. Share this with someone who values preparedness, and help keep these lessons alive. Because, let's face it, forgotten history has a way of repeating itself.